Aswan, Egypt, where dozens of tourists stand around a pyramid which has 4 large idols on the front of it. A man is with his wife and daughter and asks another woman nearby if she would mind taking a few pictures of them. Just one good shot will do. The man calls out, but the woman holding the camera looks nervous and freezes. Look, if you didn't want to take the photo, you could have just... The man begins as he moves towards the woman holding his camera. Suddenly a shadow falls over them, and a rumbling can be heard. He looks up in shock as the pyramid begins to break away, revealing a high-tech structure beneath it. The tourists begin to run in fear. While inside, I tapped at a control panel and declares that, centuries ago, I built this structure to test Earth's greatest warriors. I glanced over to where several other figures are standing and grinned. How soft this planet has become without the hand of Apocalypse to guide it. Shortly, nice of Apocalypse to give no clue where he was teleporting us. Danny Moonstar, also known as Mirage, remarks to her longtime teammate, Julio Richter, also known as Rictor, as they leap over a pit of large spikes within what appears to be a pyramid. Danny reports that she doesn't sense anyone else close by, but notes that her psi powers are more empathic than on demand. Do you think we're on Arakko? Danny asks. As the duo races down a narrow tunnel, Richter reports that this is definitely Earth, as he can feel the rock and soil beneath them. Calling me by my Krakoan name, Richter tells Danny that he knows me better than almost anyone. If he wants to judge our worthiness to shepherd Earth, he'll test us on Richter begins, but as he steps on a particular brick, a trapdoor is activated, and the two begin to plummet into darkness. Rick! Danny calls out, while Richter tells Danny to try and grab onto something. But Danny tells him that the walls are too smooth, and she can't find a hold. Eventually, Danny and Richter stop falling and land in quicksand. They quickly find themselves up to their necks, as Danny declares that this is not normal quicksand. It is a hell of a lot stronger. Making the earth move and shake is your wheelhouse, Rick. Sand particles are just really tiny rocks, right? Anytime you want to leap into action. Danny calls out, while Richter closes his eyes. Earlier, Richter sits on a floating piece of land. Green energy glows around him as a voice calls out. Richter, you've continued your studies. Eyes closed, Richter responds, you came back for me, even after we fought on Krakoa. Even though I wasn't on Arakko when you needed me. Richter suddenly opens his eyes and declares, I knew you would. Richter steps off the floating piece of earth, drops to his knees and bows before the shadowy figure who looms over him. You taught me so much. It couldn't have been without purpose. I placed a hand on Richter's shoulder and replied, no, never without purpose. Now, had me worried for a second. Danny tells her friend as Richter levitates them both out of the quicksand. After he transforms the quicksand into solid matter, Danny and Richter leap back onto the walkway and Danny tells Richter that he seems different here. You really want this, don't you? She asks him, before admitting that she had to be convinced. But you believe in his plan, she adds. Rick looks at Danny and tells her that he doesn't want her to take this the wrong way, because he loves her, but that this isn't her destiny. It's mine, he boasts. I guess we'll see about that. Danny responds as the two continue on down another tunnel, and Danny points out that there are a lot of trials standing between them and the trophy. Now come on, it can't just be the two of us fighting for our lives in here. Indeed, as elsewhere in the structure, the Gorgon cuts his way through a series of spear-like weapons with his blade. Suddenly, a flaming arrow descends towards him, but Monet St, Croix, also known as Penance, comes between them. Watch out, she tells him as she knocks the arrow away. Flames and arrows are a nuisance when you're invulnerable, but I recall you being a bit more delicate, Monet remarks. The Gorgon looks up at Monet before he cuts through a boulder that drops towards him and announces that he needs no warning. Monet catches a flaming arrow and tells Gorgon, no offense, but the last I knew, dying in Otherworld had turned you into a sniveling coward scared senseless by a stiff breeze. What changed? I died again, Gorgon reveals, explaining that this time he passed through the waiting room, a trick of magic by the Scarlet Witch. and a path back to his true self.
Earlier.
In a bar, Gorgon stands in front of several men in suits. Another man lies on the floor, pools of blood around him as a shadow looms over them all. "You are ruthless, Gorgon. I have need of that," I announced. "Now." Gorgon hangs his head as he tells Monet that he discovered the nation he had died to defend had been undermined by power-mad fools. In another part of the complex, the diabolical Mr. Sinister smacks what looks like some sort of strange weapon against his hand, as it appears to be not working. "Oh, come on. This is what I get for buying bargain black market genetic weapon," Sinister mutters, before the device suddenly activates. There we go, and not a second too soon. He decides, noting that cloning himself is once again somewhat arduous work rather than a matter of daily routine. He holds the weapon up, and it emits a strange energy, which rips apart a ferocious creature that lunges at Sinister. The creature drops to the floor and Sinister carries on down the tunnel. He admits that he wasn't sure that would work on something without an X gene. Good to know, he decides.
Meanwhile,
"Watch your six, kid!"
Nathan Summers, also known as Cable, shouts as he fires his weapon through a reanimated mummy, which was encroaching upon Lynn Lee, also known as Armageddon Girl. "I don't need your help, old man," Lynn snaps as she glances back at Cable. She boasts that she is connected to every living being, every element of nature on this planet. I stood up to Gaia herself for the right to guide its future, the former nature girl exclaimed, before declaring that she is the only one suitable to hold Earth to account.
"You want to play it that way? Fine by me. Consider the helping hand revoked."
Cable responds as he carries on down the tunnel, leaving a trail of mummies behind him. He tells Armageddon Girl to keep an eye out for killer mummies, all on her own next time. "Humph," Lynn mutters. At that moment, Bennett du Paris, also known as Exodus, calmly walks into another part of the complex. All appears calm until several weapons are hurled towards him. "This is beneath me, as I expected," Exodus notes as he easily catches all of the weapons in telekinetic fields and lets them drop to the ground. As flames rise up behind him, he carries on into another chamber. Elsewhere, Emma Frost, Doug Ramsey, also known as Cypher, Laura Kinney, also known as Wolverine, and the man known only as Forge are together as they make their way through the labyrinthine structure. "At least we all found each other before entering this never-ending rat maze," Cypher points out. Forge agrees, and notes that they are additionally lucky that between he and Laura, they have a good number of old-fashioned navigational skills. Forge looks at a brick on the ground which is probably booby-trapped, and Wolverine glances over at Emma and suggests that perhaps if she dropped her diamond form, she could test the group's telepathic range, too. Suddenly, Forge tells everyone to watch it, as he thinks he just triggered something. Indeed, a dart appears, flung towards Emma, who flicks it away with her diamond-hard fingers.
yes, let me drop my only physical protection while in this surprise death corridor.
Emma mutters, before turning to Wolverine and telling her that, if she didn't know any better, she may get suspicious of her motives. Wolverine just snarls.
Earlier.
Standing in the shadows, I addressed Magic, Cinch, and Wolverine. I tell them that the three of them serve Krakoa selflessly, proving that the generation before them does not hold a monopoly on what it means to be one of their X-Men. I announce that I come to them today with an opportunity to serve again, on a much grander scale. No, and I don't think you're surprised that I turn you down. Cinch responds, while Magic remarks that she just got rid of her throne in Limbo and is not in the market for another one anytime soon. Wolverine smirks, intrigued with the proposal. Now, Cypher reports that he is starting to read a pattern to the turns in the path. The maze's language. If we just... Cypher begins as he steps on a raised brick, which sends a wall collapsing in on him. "Whoa!" Cypher calls out, before Wolverine lunges forward and pushes him to safety as the wall crashes to the ground. "Yeesh. Thanks, Wolverine. I almost..." Cypher begins nervously, looking back at Wolverine, who interrupts him. "Why are you here, Ramsey? Isn't your mutant gift talking?" Wolverine snarls. That's A little reductive. Cypher responds before telling Wolverine that he is just as surprised that I invited him as she is. It really feels like someone else should be here instead, he admits. Earlier, Arakko, where Warren Worthington, also known as Archangel, swoops down to a cliffside, next to Shiro Yoshida, also known as Sunfire.
It's not easy to get to outer space without Krakoan gates.
Shiro, the shirtless Archangel, remarks, and suggests that they could have met somewhere more earthbound if he had something he wanted to talk to him about. Sunfire tells Archangel that he misunderstands because it wasn't he who requested this meeting. Then who? Warren asks, before a voice calls out, "My heralds." Archangel and Sunfire turn to see me waiting for them. I tell two of my former horsemen that I appreciate them traveling to hear me out. Of all my many horsemen, I see in both of you the chance to be something greater than mere servants at my side. Just as I have always seen mutantkind's inherent potential, I turn my back to Archangel and Sunfire as I tell them that they both suffered for me and emerged stronger, tempered by the flame of revelation.
More than you once were. More than you ever could have become on your own. And now it falls to me to push you even further, to determine who might succeed me in my great work on Earth.
Warren looks unimpressed and clenches his fists before he transforms into his deadly razor-sharp winged version. Stretching his wings in all their dangerous glory, he exclaims,
"Further! I went through hell at your hands! Apocalypse!"
Archangel declares that, for the good of mutantkind, he put aside his pain. He watched as I took a seat on the Quiet Council, trusted Professor X and Magneto when they said I earned it. But the idea of becoming you, of seeing someone else becoming you, absolutely not. One apocalypse is already more than enough for anyone to survive, Archangel remarks. I tell Archangel that I could have met him anywhere on Earth, but that I chose to invite him here, so that Archangel might see what compels me. I motion to some structures on Arakko, and think back to when Earth was young, recalling how I watched my homeland cleaved in two. I stated that, for centuries, Arakko endured. I did all I could to prepare the mutants left behind to one day rejoin my family, to make our kind strong enough to rise to the challenge set upon us by the nature of our birth. I thought I achieved that goal when Krakoa and Arakko were made whole once more. But then Krakoa fell, and Arakko endures. And so long as I watch over it, I will see that Arakko is prepared for the day when all of our people are united once more, I concluded. Sunfire listens as I continued, stating that as I guide Arakko, so too must someone hold Earth to its highest potential. I offered my steady hand. I was rejected. Will one of you answer that call? My favored horseman? Sunfire finally speaks, telling me that once the mere sight of me would have repulsed him and driven shame and fear deep into his bones. But my journeys across Krakoa, Arakko, and Otherworld have brought me a new sense of purpose, and I do not feel that I have found my limits yet. Sunfire reveals, deciding that this is not where his path leads. I tell my beloved horsemen that I will not force their fate to bend towards mine. Don't lie. You've never hesitated to play God with our lives. But I'll be damned if you turn another innocent mutant into a monster made in your image. Archangel warns me, before he and Sunfire take flight across the skies of Arakko, leaving me behind.
Now, the finish line so soon.
Mr. Sinister remarks as he enters another chamber within the pyramid.
Well, I appear to be the victor then. No surprises there.
Sinister boasts, only for a blade to be pressed to his neck. Sinister looks at the blade, then casually pushes it away with a dinger.
Do you mind?
He asks, before Gorgon sheathes his blade and tells Sinister that the tournament is far from over. Looks like it's just getting started, actually. Gang's all here. It's practically a party, Monet remarks as she. Gorgon and Sinister look on to see Exodus appear from one tunnel, Rictor and Mirage from another, and Cable, Armageddon Girl, Cypher, Emma Frost, Forge and Wolverine all converge at another. Within the chamber is a black pyramid, which protrudes from the ground. Monet? Doug, you're part of this too? Danny calls out to her friends, while Emma turns to Cable and tells him that he is the last mutant she expected to see here.
Come on, Emma. After living through the future where he got his way, you think I'd let Apocalypse make a move this big without having a say in it?
Cable frowns. Cypher approaches Armageddon Girl and tells her that he is sorry to see her like this. Krakoa and I thought you had the potential to bring so much peace and growth to the planet with your gift. But you've caused so much harm instead. He remarks. Lynn hangs her head before telling Cypher that he and the island were naive fools. I will always do whatever is necessary to protect the future of life on Earth, and no one will stand in my way, she boasts.
Exodus hovers above Sinister and tells him that this contest is about the destiny of mutantkind, and that a gene thief has no right to be here.
Sinister smirks and replies,
Sticky fingers or not, here I am.
Forge comes between the two men and tells them that Big Blue promised no duels to the death.
Then again, for Sinister, maybe we should make an exception, he suggests.
Please, you can't kill me in any way that matters. If you haven't gathered that by now, you're beyond.
Sinister starts, before the small pyramid begins to separate and energy crackles within it. As a voice booms.
Silence!
My image appears from the open pyramid and all 12 of the mutants turn to look up at me.
I announced that, for millennia. I sought the path laid out before us on Krakoa, the promise of something more than fighting our lessers for the right to exist. My people, our people, feasted on a bounty of possibility while the island thrived. For a brief moment, it seemed that a new age had dawned, and then it was taken from us. We are in lean times again, a famine of hope and potential, but that one of you will lead the mutants of Earth to prosperity once more. You work together out of habit, but do not mistake the trial I've presented to you. Only one of you will be my heir. The mutants listen intently, some suspiciously, as I tell them that only one of them will follow in my footsteps and ensure that the mutants of Earth are ready to meet the challenges they will face in the days ahead.
Whether or not the rest of you survive is up to you. I warned them.
Oh, don't everyone look at me when he says that part.
Sinister snaps as he feels several pairs of eyes fall on him. I inform the mutants that the obstacles they have faced to reach this chamber were merely prelude to what awaits them deeper in the temple. You will face trials of the mind, of the spirit, all in service. My voice trails off, and my image vanishes as there is a rumbling noise. He's always had a flair for the dramatics, Emma remarks, to which Forge tells her that he doesn't think this is part of the show. Suddenly, there is an explosion, which destroys the small pyramid and leaves a gaping hole in the side of the temple. Mirage rushes over to the hole in the temple and the others follow her. She tells Rictor that he was right. They are on Earth, and the blast came from across the river. And whoever is trying to crash this little pageant just put a lot of innocent people in danger. Mirage exclaims as flames begin to spread in the nearby town. Mirage asks Rictor how fast he can get them down there, to which Rictor suggests that it might be quicker for Cable to body slide all of them. But he could build a rock bridge if the old man doesn't have it in him.
You'll have to repeat that, Rick. I got distracted by a snake slithering away when we weren't looking.
Cable calls out as he holds a gun to the back of Sinister's head. Sinister looks annoyed that he wasn't able to escape without being noticed.
Did you really think a few screaming locals would move me to rote heroism?
Sinister asks as he raises his hands above his head.
There's a game afoot.
He points out, "Screw the game, Sinister. Lives are at stake. Let's move." Mirage suggests as Rictor starts to form a rock bridge. Gorgon raises a sword and suggests that Mirage is right. This could be part of the trial. I wouldn't put it past the great Satan to extend his tribulations to the city beyond. Exodus frowns, deciding that I have never cared who I crushed underfoot in pursuit of my machinations. Exodus then gathers all the mutants in a telekinetic field and announces that they will move as one to keep the sanctity of the contest, and carries them all down to the town below. I am clearly able to watch what's going on as my flickering image sees the group depart, and I remark to myself, an unexpected visitor, a fighting test for my heir. And across from the temple, in the town, an armored being with a flaming skull contained in transparent helmet unleashes a powerful blaze as he shouts, "You set me loose on this world, Father. You made me what I am. The only rightful heir to Apocalypse is Genocide.